What is going on, all you Pokemon collecting maniacs out there? This is Ryan, the PikaPikaPaPa, and I know there's a lot going on this slide right here. But I thought before I get into my new ranking for Sword and Shield booster boxes for 2024, I thought it'd be really cool to look at how I ranked them back on December 18th of 2022, right? This was the third video that I ever did, and to me it was really interesting because I've always been data driven, and that was how I did this ranking, right? I believe we should spend 80% of our time on the why and 20% of the time on the what. So I did this with some math, right? Like I looked at the top 20 singles cards and all of the Sword and Shield sets with booster boxes. Then I looked at the booster box price and we came up with some ratios, and basically we just decided that, hey, listen, over the long run, the value of the singles cards in the set should have a direct correlation to the value of the booster box. Now, ever since then, our data warehouse has expanded significantly. I'm going to show you that on the next slide. We've been able to do some back testing, and we've come up with the fact that, the average of the top 20 cards in the booster box, the ratio there gives us the best opportunity. Nobody has a crystal ball, but at least is a good indicator of future booster box price growth. So we have been doing that a lot over the last year on this channel, and we've gotten, much more buttoned up with it. But this was still really cool to look at back in December of 2022. Now, I had the three different categories here. I won't go through them individually, but I will say you this. Trash was basically, which is an aggressive word. I shouldn't have said trash, but trash was basically saying, hey, listen, the value of the cards inside of the set versus the booster box price right now don't make a lot of sense to me, and I'm not spending my money on it. You see that I have a couple slides there where I mentioned hold, and that was where I said, hey, listen, the singles cards in these sets are really, really good, and the booster box price is right. I think these could be great sealed investments. And then I had the rip category. Listen, we all enjoy ripping product. I think it's a ton of fun. I enjoy doing it with my family. But if I'm going to rip product, I want to make sure that I have the best opportunity to, if I do get dumb lucky and I have a great pull, I want to make sure that the cards are super cool and have a lot of value to them. So I said, hey, listen, if you do choose to open some products, there's a couple sets on here. Astral Radiant, Silver Tempest were ones that I called out where I said, the price of the singles cards versus the booster box, there's a great ratio there. And you have the opportunity, to pull some cards and make a little bit of money if you get lucky. So with that being said, I promised you I'd show you what the new data warehouse looks, and then we're going to get into how I'm ranking the booster boxes here in the Sword and Shield era for 2024. Now, this is where we're at from a data warehouse perspective. I now have 2 years worth of booster box prices for all of the Sword and Shield, and actually Sun and Moon and XY as well. That's not in this video, but I do keep all that information as well. So that has been really cool for us because we've been able to track the movement at the end of every single month of the single booster boxes and how their prices have changed. Now, we also do this. Every single month, we look at the price of the top 20 singles cards in all of these sets as well. We track their movement month over month, and this has been a ton of fun because it's been able to help us keep a finger on the pulse of the hobby. Like, we can understand where single sets start to come up or come down versus their peers. We look at it holistically, like the whole Sword and Shield era. So this stuff has really helped us, and as I said earlier, since we've been warehousing this data, it's helped us really just get an idea of, hey, like, there's no crystal ball, there's no magic mathematical formula which is going to tell us what booster boxes are going to do, but you work hard for your money and so do I, so it at least helps us make some educated decisions when it comes to spending it. Now, before I get into my ranking of all the Sword and Shield booster boxes, if this kind of data doesn't bore you to death and it gets you excited and you haven't hit the subscriber button yet, we are building an amazing community. So go ahead and hit that subscribe button. Questions or comments, drop them down below. If you like what you see, give us a thumbs up. Obviously, I put a ton of work into this. So if you find value in it, that gives me, it lets me know you appreciate it. So do one of those three small things. It goes a long way in helping my small channel out. Now, with that being said, let's get into the rankings here. So I've circled those two things down below in the lower right-hand corner that we're going to be talking about, okay? So the average number that's circled right there, that is the average of the 20 singles cards right there, the top 20 singles cards from each set. And then you have the average versus booster box price, which I've circled as well down there. So that is just the ratio between the booster box price and the average of the top 20 cards. And this, again, we've done a ton of data research, a ton of data dives. And again, I will always say this, there's no crystal ball, but this does seem to be some sort of indicator as to, the higher the ratio, the better the probability is that the booster box is going to grow over time because it just makes sense, right? Valuable cards in a set leads to a valuable booster box. So speaking of not valuable, we're starting with number 12 and number 11, my two bottom sets for 2024 from a booster box pricing perspective. Darkness Ablaze and Sword and Shield. Darkness Ablaze is proof that a Zard Chase card sometimes just isn't enough because that set is just not doing great, right? The Chase Zard card right there is at $29 and everything else is sub $10, and the booster box right now is over $140. Now, I have this in my collection, but I'm not actively buying any more at the current time. I will say this though, this is just uncharacteristically low. I mean, look at the average for the top 20 cards in Darkness Ablaze, it's at $5.36. For Sword and Shield, it's at $10.46. So I mean, we're talking about a huge delta between the average of the top 20 cards in Darkness Ablaze and every other set out there. So speaking of Sword and Shield, we know base sets typically don't perform really well. Sword and Shield, compared to its peers from a booster box perspective, is actually pretty freaking high. But when you look at it for the long-term perspective, I just think that it's got to stall, right? There's just not a lot of value in it unless there's just some old school sealed collectors who simply want to buy this booster box in order to complete their set. I don't know. To me, you look at the price movements of it, you know, in January of 2022, the Sword and Shield booster box was at $210. Now it's up to $274, so a pretty significant gain over 2 years. But you look at it too, coming in May of 2023, it was all the way up at $291. So the Sword and Shield booster box has actually been on a downtrend here for the last 6-7 months. So is that going to continue into 2024? I'm not sure, but I certainly think that almost $275 is a bit rich for my blood for the Sword and Shield booster box. Now, coming in at number 10 and number 9, and I was really I was torn on number 9. Now we'll start with number 10, which is Rebel Clash. You know, the thing that I'm scared of in Rebel Clash is Boss's Order is the big chase card. No offense to Boss's Order, but I just don't know if that chase card is enough to really carry Rebel Clash, you know, into the future to make it one of the best sets in the Sword and Shield era further down the road, or to warrant some really strong price appreciation, especially since the booster box is already at $229. Like, that is a crazy high booster box price, right? And the fact that the average top 20 cards is only $11.64. You see that average to booster box price ratio there is one of the very lowest out of all of them, simply because, hey, listen, $224 for a booster box when your top 2 chase cards is $36 and $27. Like, it's just so much money to spend on the booster box, again, unless you're actually a sealed collector and you're just trying to finish off, you know, your Sword and Shield sealed booster box set. Just for me, again, one that I am not actively going after right now. Now, one that I am going after, despite the fact that the price is so low, I'm a big fan of Vivid Voltage right now. It was printed into oblivion, but I do love the fact that it has that rainbow Pikachu in there. I think that's going to keep the set relevant, you know, further into the future. So we'll see. I don't know. And also, when you look at the price movement of Vivid Voltage right there, you're going to see that the booster box really is at like a 12-month low. The last time it was this low, you see in October of 2022, it was at $129. September of 2022, it was at $125. It's at $125 right now. So even though the ratios aren't there, you know, listen, math only tells part of the story. Sometimes you do got to, you know, put a little bit of your gut in there. You got to use some of your head and some of your heart. So Vivid Voltage, I had to rank it where it is. It comes in at number 9. But I do think that there's some upside to Vivid Voltage. And I might actually pick up a couple of those because, again, the booster box price has been falling, and I do think sealed in the long term, especially with the age of this set, I think it's got some upside potential further down the road. Now, the next one's coming in right here, Silver Tempest and Battle Styles. It might be interesting to see Silver Tempest ranked as low as number 8, but I just think because it's so new, it's still got some of the Pokemon pop and flop to work its way through. You know, the big Lugia chase card right there, it has been dropping like a rock. Last month was the very first time we actually saw it make a little bit of an upturn, so it'll be interesting this month when we look at those Sword and Shield month-over-month price changes by set. It'll be interesting to see if the Lugia continues its upward climb or if it was simply boosted a little bit because of the Christmas rush. Now, Battle Styles is another one that's on here at number 7, and actually, Battle Styles and Vivid Voltage are 2 sealed booster boxes that I kind of like right now. Battle Styles booster boxes is at $103, right? Like, I went and checked on eBay. You can get it at an auction in the $100 range, or you can buy it now at $110. Battle Styles, I mean, that is an old set, and it's got 2. Look at that. The chase card right there is right around $90, $100, you know, and the second place card is over 50. Like, that is nothing to shake a fist at. And that Tyranitar card there is really cool. So Battle Styles is another one where it's ranked pretty low, but this is something that I might actually pull the trigger on because Battle Styles, I think, has some intrigue to me. Again, I have no concern about Battle Styles being reprinted, but I will say this, you can still find Battle Styles on the Pokemon Center website. So in my mind, booster boxes never reach full potential until they're sold out on the Pokemon Center website, right? I know the whole world doesn't have access to it, but why would anybody pay over MSRP if you can buy it for MSRP on the Pokemon Center website? So it'll be interesting. Again, obviously, I think there's plenty of Battle Styles in circulation if it's still on the website. But I do think that getting a box of this age, you know, in the $100 range, I think is an absolute steal. And again, I'm a 3, 5, 10-year collector, so it'll be interesting to see where this shakes up, but it still comes in at number 7. Now, we're getting into the top half of the list here, an Astral Radiance and Brilliant Stars. Now, we might be surprised that Brilliant Stars is coming in at number 5 on the list, but, you know, Brilliant Stars, to me, it's great. I love it. It's the level up Zard set, right? You got Darkness Ablaze, which, you know, has a not too exciting Zard, and then Brilliant Stars, we've got that alt art, right? We've got the rainbow, and actually both of those cards have seen some pretty good price movement over the last couple months. But the reality is, outside of that, you know, there are some exciting things with the Trainer Gallery set. And, you know, Brilliant Stars is a great set. I just don't know. There are other sets where the math kind of gave me the idea that they could be a better investment, at least in the short term. And then Astral Radiance. The only thing that worries me about Astral Radiance is, you know, the Machamp card, which is absolutely awesome. Like, I love it. But is that going to be a big enough card to, again, 3, 5, 10 years from now, take Astral Radiance, you know, above a Brilliant Stars, above a Lost Origin, above a Fusion Strike? You know, obviously nothing's going to be above Evolving Skies, but when we get into the top 6 sets, you know, there's some real stiff competition, and I just didn't think that Astral Radiance could hang with the other ones in the long run, because Machamp is awesome, but I don't know if that's the card that's going to be able to bring Astral Radiance, you know, into the top 3, top 4 conversation. So the next one's right here. Coming in at number 4 and number 3, I have Lost Origin. I absolutely love that Giratina chase card. I think it is going to go down as one of the top 10 chase cards from the Sword and Shield era for sure. The Aerodactyl alt art isn't bad at all. And then you got the Pikachu trainer galleries in there. Like, I think those cards fly under the radar, right? There's 2 of them in there. Both of them look absolute fire. I think there's enough things in Lost Origin to keep Lost Origin in the top 4. I know a lot of us on the channel always talk about how great it is. And then you look at this, you know, we're starting to get into some higher average top 20 card prices. Now, again, Lost Origin is still relatively new. It's already gone through a restock. You know, it is not out of the restock window. Even though we're a year into Scarlet and Violet, we've got to remember that there can still be more restocks. We've seen it time and time and time again. So I'm not quite pulling the trigger on Lost Origin. I already got a couple booster boxes behind me, but I certainly am going to monitor the price because it started to go up a little bit here recently. Remember, a couple months ago when it was down in the 120s, we had it on our target list for that month. So now it's all the way up in the 140s. So it's going to be interesting to see where Lost Origin starts to break out, because I think it will. It'll just have to be a matter of when. And then Fusion Strike, you know, I absolutely love Fusion Strike. It's a Gengar set. Like, all the top 3 cards are bangers. That alt art Gengar is absolutely out of control. And there's only 3 sets in the whole Sword and Shield era right now where the top 20 cards are over $30. Fusion Strike is one of them, and spoiler alert, you're going to see the next 2 on the next slide. And I think Fusion Strike, it's at that point, I'm not concerned about restocks. Now listen, the Pokemon Company certainly surprises us from time to time, so maybe there will be this out of the blue restock or reprint, or I don't freaking know. But I'm starting to feel really good about Fusion Strike every single month that goes behind us. It is absolutely one of my favorite sets. Gengar card is one of my favorite cards. Another one I think will be in the top 10 of the Sword and Shield era. So I think Fusion Strike is well placed there at number 3. Now, if I think that's well placed at number 3, what are the top 2? Of course, Evolving Skies, right? Like, you didn't need a crystal ball at the beginning of this video to know that Evolving Skies was going to be up there. But the big headliner for me is Chilling Reign, and I have it written down there. If Chilling Reign doesn't pop off or the singles drop, I quit, because it just doesn't make any sense, right? Chilling Reign, the average of the top 20 cards is almost $41. Now remember, Fusion Strike, the set we just talked about, the average of the top 20 cards there was $30. So we're talking about almost an $11 difference in the average of the top 20 cards in Chilling Reign versus Fusion Strike. The other thing too is Chilling Reign, the distribution is much broader, right? Like, Fusion Strike has that Gengar card, which is over $200. That's the chase card. In Chilling Reign, the chase card's only $162, right? So that means that money is divided among a lot of cards in the top 20. So there's a lot of great cards. I mean, look at all those cards over $25 right there. There's just a lot of solid cards in Chilling Reign. And right now, Chilling Reign is at $151. We mentioned this earlier. Like, it's hard for booster boxes to reach full potential when they're still available on the Pokemon Center. Well, guess what? Chilling Reign, every single product of Chilling Reign is sold out on the Pokemon Center right now. So that means Chilling Reign has the opportunity to finally make a run. And I really think that when you look at the value of the cards that are in it, when you look at the price of the booster box right now, this is absolutely one of my top sets. And think about it, it's 2.5 years old, right? My gosh. Again, I think we're out of the reprint window. It's not on Pokemon Center right now. You can still buy it for right around MSRP. I'm absolutely in love with Chilling Reign booster boxes. Now, I'm actually really in love with Evolving Skies booster boxes too. It's the beast of the Sword and Shield era. The price has been flat for the last 5 months, so I think this is an opportunity to take a real hard look at Evolving Skies. It has 7 cards over $90 right now. 7 cards over $90. And when you look at the booster box price, you know, booster box price right now is right around $410, $415. And there are 7 different booster boxes in the Sun and Moon era that are over $600. Now, do I think that Evolving Skies is going to outperform 4 or 5 of those boxes? boxes? I absolutely do. It's not going to touch Team Up. Like, I don't know if it'll ever get to Cosmic Eclipse level, although I do think Cosmic Eclipse is a little bit overpriced right now. Like, I don't know if it's going to be a $1,000 booster box anytime soon, but hey, in 5, 10, 15 years, could it be a $1,000 booster box? Abso-freaking-lutely. But I will say this, today, as we sit, 7 of the 12 Sun and Moon booster boxes are over $600, and I certainly think Evolving Skies is a heck of a lot better than a bunch of them. So this was a fun list to put together. It really was. Like, I enjoyed going back and looking at where they were ranked a year ago, and then going through this re-ranking right now and looking at all the data. And so it's just a ton of fun. And as I always say, we do a ton of stuff like this on the channel. We always do data dives and trends analysis. And if you made it to the end and you haven't hit that subscribe button yet, what are you doing? Hit the subscribe button. If you like what you see, give us a thumbs up. Questions or comments, drop them down below. As always, I appreciate you, and you all have an epic one. See you, everyone.